Pastor Gerald Harper was the moral compass of a quiet town, respected, revered, and trusted by everyone. But behind the pulpit, he carried a deadly secret. His daughter-in-law, Rebecca, was drawn to him in ways no one could explain. And while his son Thomas worked day and night to rebuild their lives, the two people he trusted most were betraying him in the house built on faith. But when a buried phone unlocked their secret adand, a grave behind the church revealed a forgotten corpse. This forbidden affair spiraled into something far darker. What began as a secret love turned into a web of fraud, betrayal, and murder. You won't believe how this story ends. Pastor Gerald Harper had been the spiritual pillar of Willow Creek for over 30 years. From baptisms to funerals, weddings to Sunday school, his presence was interwoven with every part of town life. His sermons were emotional, poetic, and deeply moving. People said he had a gift that he could look into your soul and speak directly to it. His voice could silence a crowd, and his prayers brought grown men to tears. He preached about fidelity, humility, and the dangers of temptation. No one doubted him. He lived alone in a large white house behind the church after the passing of his wife. The house was filled with religious books, framed photographs of the congregation, and awards from various community and faith-based organizations. It looked like the home of a man without secrets. His son, Thomas Harper, had returned to Willow Creek after falling on hard times in the city. He was modest, hard-working, and quietly proud. With him came Rebecca's young, beautiful wife, who spoke little but had a presence that was hard to ignore. Her pale green eyes and calm smile gave her an ethereal quality. Gerald welcomed them into the guest house, beside his own, with generosity that seemed fatherly and sincere. But beneath the surface of these reunions and smiles was an attraction that had begun to fester. It started innocently. Gerald would offer Rebecca books on faith. He would invite her in for tea while Thomas worked late. Said he saw a spiritual hunger in her. He told her she was chosen for something greater. She had grown up without a father and craved guidance. Gerald, with his commanding presence and charm, filled that void. What began as innocent mentorship soon crossed a sacred line. Rebecca's behavior began to shift. Once withdrawn and cautious, she started dressing differently. Her walks to the church became longer, her gaze more confident. She often stayed late, claiming she was organizing prayer groups or cleaning up the church office. No one questioned her. After all, she was the pastor's daughter-in-law and a devoted church member. Inside Gerald's study became more frequent, the touches more subtle, the conversations more personal. The walls of the house that once echoed with scripture now held whispered moments of intimacy and sin. Gerald justified the affair in his own mind, convincing himself it was God's will, a test of passion and faith. Rebecca, torn between guilt and desire, slipped deeper into his influence. Thomas remained blind to the truth. He was working 2 jobs to support his family and felt proud to have his father and wife under the same roof. Failed to notice, Rebecca stopped initiating conversations. She avoided intimacy at home. On more than one occasion, found her crying in the bathroom, but chalked it up to stress. No one outside the house suspected anything until one evening, when a church volunteer cleaning after a youth event entered Gerald's office to find Rebecca hurriedly fixing her hair in the mirror. The pastor emerged moments later, adjusting his collar. The encounter was awkward. The volunteer, unsure of what he had witnessed, said nothing. But he started to pay closer attention. And he wasn't the only one. Jacob, the teenage volunteer, was passionate about photography. During a community picnic hosted by the church, he took hundreds of pictures, families laughing, children playing, Gerald preaching beside a bonfire. He uploaded them to the church's Facebook page that evening. One photo, buried deep in the album, showed Rebecca seated alone, gazing at Gerald, who stood across from her. Their eyes locked in a way that felt inappropriate. Intimate, the image sparked. Quiet unease among a few observant members. People started watching more closely. One woman mentioned seeing Rebecca leaving Gerald's house at dusk. Another remembered Gerald canceling a Bible study session, only to be spotted walking with Rebecca in the woods behind the church. Whispers grew louder. Thomas overheard the rumors at the garage. First he was furious that anyone would insult his wife and father. But the thought festered. He started noticing details he had ignored. The second phone Rebecca kept hidden. Her reluctance to answer certain calls, her sudden interest in religious counseling she never spoke of before. One night, he waited until Rebecca had gone to sleep. He found the phone, unlocked it with her birthday, and scrolled through message after message encrypted notes. Calendar meetings, secret photos of the woods behind the church. The content wasn't explicit, but it was undeniably intimate. His world cracked open. Instead of confronting them, Thomas began quietly documenting everything. He wasn't interested in a simple confrontation. He wanted destruction. Thomas crafted a careful plan. He knew confronting Rebecca or Gerald would only lead to denial or manipulation. He wanted something more permanent, something public, through church records. He discovered financial inconsistencies in Gerald's budget. Donation logs didn't match expenditures. Tithes were missing. He cross-referenced receipts and bank statements with dates from Rebecca's messages. Several payments lined up with their secret getaways, hotel bills, boutique charges, and unexplained cash withdrawals. It wasn't just adultery, it was fraud. He compiled every piece of evidence, put it all in a sealed folder, and delivered it to the local sheriff's office. Then he waited. The church was packed the following Sunday. Gerald stood at the pulpit, dressed in white robes, preparing to deliver a sermon titled, "The Cost of Temptation." As he opened his Bible, the church doors swung open. Two officers walked down the aisle. Murmurs rippled through the pews. They arrested him in front of the entire congregation. Gasps filled the air. Rebecca, seated in the front row, turned pale. She ran out before anyone could stop her. Thomas remained in his seat, hands folded, face calm. He never spoke to either of them again. In the weeks that followed, Gerald faced charges of embezzlement and financial abuse of church funds. The affair wasn't criminal. The betrayal of trust made it impossible for him to remain in the community. His reputation, built over 3 decades, dissolved overnight. Rebecca fled town in shame, her name whispered in every grocery store and prayer circle. She left no forwarding address, but the town's nightmare was not yet over. Months later, construction began on a new youth center behind the church, funded by donations to restore trust in the institution. While digging the foundation, workers unearthed a shallow grave beneath the old prayer garden. Inside was a decomposed body, wrapped in a decayed bedsheet. Investigators were stunned. A forensic analysis confirmed it belonged to Melissa Granta, young church intern who had gone missing 6 years earlier. At the time, it was believed she had returned to her hometown after a brief stay, though no one had confirmed it. Gerald had given a sermon about letting go of those who drift away. Now it appeared she had never left at all. Authorities turned their attention to Gerald once more. Melissa had worked closely with him. She had confided in friends about feeling watched and uncomfortable, but was too afraid to speak. A journal found in her old room mentioned private counseling sessions that left her feeling confused and ashamed. Though Gerald refused to speak from his jail cell, the evidence was damning. Charges for obstruction, abuse of power, and potentially even homicide were now in play. The town was paralyzed. Their once beloved leader was now a symbol of darkness, hidden behind stained glass in Scripture. No one knew how many others he had hurt, or how long the silence had protected him. Thomas left town soon after the second investigation began. He never gave a public statement. Some say he lives in the mountains now, far from churches and crowds. Others believe he's still watching, waiting for the final truth to come out. One thing was certain: Willow Creek would never forget the affair. That revealed something far worse: a holy man who wasn't holy at all.